Politically, Donald Trump has never really been all that consistent. He was, pro-choice and he's pro-life. He's swapped on a lot of things over the course of his life. But there's one thing he's always been true to. There's always been a core part of him, and that is that he will rob you. And if you love him, he will rob you even more, and he'll appreciate it even more as he does it. So look, this has happened in many different instances, Trump University and every product he's ever made and all of that. But now we've got a story of him bilking his fans for millions of dollars. So it starts back during the closing months of the presidential election when he was facing a cash crunch and getting badly outspent by the Democrats. His campaign had begun last September to set up recurring donations by default for online donors for every week until the election. Contributors had to wade through a fine print disclaimer and manually uncheck a box to opt out. So many people donate to politicians. Many of them don't expect that unless they use Sherlock Holmes level powers of searching, that they might make that same donation every week without knowing it. So let's take a look at how this played out and how bad it actually got for some individuals, because we're not talking about $5 or $10 here. This tactic ensnared scores of unsuspecting Trump loyalists, retirees, military veterans, nurses, experienced political operatives who just got a little bit more experience. Soon, banks and credit card companies were inundated with fraud complaints from the president's own supporters about donations they had not intended to make, sometimes for thousands of dollars. By the way, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars of refund requests. So let's give you a couple examples. We have one, Stacy Blatt, who was in hospice care. So it starts off rough. Last September, listening to Rush Limbaugh's dire warnings about how badly Trump's campaign needed money, he went online and chipped in everything he could, $500. It was a big sum for a 63-year-old battling cancer and living in Kansas City on less than $1,000 per month. Now hold on a second, it's gonna get worse, but Trump is a billionaire, and this person who's barely managing to survive is giving way too much of their money. That is devastating. No rich, we shouldn't have rich people in politics, but if we're gonna have rich people in politics, make them fund their own campaigns. You should, working class people have been duped into supporting them, should not be the ones that have to give way too much to help them out. But the 500, which is way too much, apparently wasn't enough for Donald Trump, because that single contribution, and federal records show it was his first ever political contribution, quickly multiplied. Another $500 was withdrawn the next day, then $500 the next week, and every week through mid-October without his knowledge, until his bank account had been depleted and frozen. They literally drained him until the bank cut off his accounts. If the bank hadn't cut off his accounts, they would have kept draining him for thousands more dollars. They were only stopped because he had no more blood to give to Donald Trump. Anyway, his utility and rent payments bounced. They soon discovered $3,000 in withdrawals in less than 1 month. And they called their bank to say they were victims of fraud. And they were, but it was worse than they thought. It wasn't a mistake. That was by design. The fraud was Trump's campaign. And they had been ensnared in it because they admired him. They looked up to him. They loved him. They supported him. They had faith in him. And that was not a good idea. Now we've got more, we'll give you more details, but Francesca, what do you think?
When you run the country like a business, makes you rethink business just a little bit. It's devastating. And this is something we cannot forget, because we know that Fox News and all the other OAN and little, spin-offs of Fox News, none of them are gonna cover this. None of them are gonna cover this, but it reminds you of when this guy was in the White House and wanted his supporters to gather during a pandemic to spit on one another and scream, "Make America Great Again," and die and freeze in the cold. He doesn't care about his supporters' lives. He doesn't. And this is one other example of he disrespects them. He thinks they're dumb. He gouge them for all they've got. Also, I'm a billionaire. Also, I'm so self-funded. Now I'm going to cheat you. It makes no sense. And in some way, I feel bad. Obviously, this is an extreme case. You feel bad. But at the same time, look at this man. He's told you over and over again who he is. He doesn't care. He has no scruples. He will walk over your dead body in order to, reach the White House again. Literally. Doesn't care. And so, yeah.
Yeah, we feel bad for them because we're like afflicted by this like empathy or whatever that Trump has never experienced. It's a foreign concept to him. But you also have to acknowledge it ain't the first time he's been shown to con his own people. Like the Trump University thing should have been it. That should have been it. It's too much. It's this businessman taking this mythology that had been built up about his abilities. It doesn't exist, but people believed it because of TV and commercials and all that. And these people who just desperately wanted to learn to be like him, who respected him above everyone else in the world, put all of the money they had and money they didn't have to learn at his feet, and he robbed them. And we all saw it. He had to pay a fine as a result of it. And millions of Americans just said, that looks like nothing to me. He's still great. I still love him. I still take my money. Rich man who doesn't need it, take my money.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.